We flip back and forth. We don't separate cues, like divide them between us. We work on the same cues, and we start by writing together and jamming in a room. And then when it comes to like really scoring picture, we take turns going back and forth, working on the same cues. So it's like just editing.
Which is really helpful because sometimes you
Yeah.
you hit a place with a cue, you're like, oh, is this done? Okay, is this like, and you have someone to be like, oh no, this sucks, or
Yeah.
this is how we should take it. And I don't know, I feel like best whatever serves the film. That's kind of the guiding principle, and we definitely kill our babies a lot
Your
because
ego is stripped out of it
completely,
because we don't know at this point, we can't remember for the most part who came up with what idea in the score. Like, and it doesn't matter
yeah.
because you're a duo.
It's very unusual to have a couple um, in the film industry, sort of as even like a duo director or even maybe producer. Yes, I know Walter Parks and Laurie McDonald were, but as music composers, I've never come across that. So before we even get to Terminator Zero, how did this happen?
It's a good
That is a
question.
good. I mean, we started out as like indie band kids in New York. So we both had our separate bands, and we actually never like played together for a very long time. We didn't even consider working together until, maybe like 4 or 5 years ago. 5 years ago.
6 years, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and it wasn't until Michelle started scoring films. I was just doing the indie thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
I started scoring people's short films and indie films and um just sort of doing I had a band called Birch at the time, and people would ask me just like do the Birch sound. So I did that, and then we had the opportunity to score this film called Asking for It, which was a really great indie feature. And Kevin decided to join me
For the most
for the
part.
most part. I think I gave him additional music credit on that one.
We started out scoring together, and then I had like 3 tours that year, and it just got crazy. But
Yeah.
yeah, ever since we've been working together.
That's awesome. So, would it be fair to say that Terminator Zero, the series on Netflix that comes out on August 29th, is the first major project that you guys have done together?
I would say first major series.
Series.
The Yeah, we did Madsen's last film, Mother Android. And so that was,
Which was a Hulu film.
yeah, yeah,
And then we did a docu-series together called The Lesbian Bar Project. But this is our first
yeah,
series. Yeah.
yeah. It's fair to say.
That's pretty cool. That's really cool. And before we dive into Terminator Zero, which I've seen the first three episodes of, we got access to
Cool.
the first
Great.
four. Um, Great, by the way. What familiar yet? How much familiar were you with the Terminator world?
But I mean, T1 and T2, very, very, very
Yeah.
familiar.
Yeah,
Grew up with those movies.
yeah.
Some of the past movies a little less so, but T1 was very much like the Holy Grail.
Yeah.
100%. What about you, Michelle?
Same for me. Yeah. I think I came to the Terminator films a little bit later. It wasn't like childhood. I didn't see it when how old were you?
Your dad
5?
didn't show it to
Yeah,
you.
my dad didn't show it to me when I was 5.
No, not when I was 5.
But I watched the first two as a teenager and absolutely loved them. So I have not seen anything since the first two, I will admit. But the first two I'm obsessed with. And I know that those are favorites
Yeah.
among people.
I don't think you're missing anything significant
Yeah.
after the first two.
Yeah.
Um, I don't even I think there was five or six. I think one of them is with what's his name? Oh God, the guy who was playing Batman.
Christian Bale.
Famous,
Yeah.
yeah, Christian Bale.
Yeah.
Then there was one with John O'Connor, but played by a different actor. I think Claire Danes was in it. I think that was the
Yeah.
third one, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
And which is somewhat along the same concept. I shouldn't say concept in terms of the whole Skynet thing, which was major in this third one. I think that was the third one, is similar to what's taking place in Terminator Zero, but completely different story.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, what, how did this start? How did Terminator Zero come on, to your slate of doing the projects?
Yeah. We were working on the showrunner, Mattson Tomlin, his
Hmm.
directorial debut, his feature film called Mother Android. And during that, he just mentioned to us that he was writing this Terminator anime. Um, and the way that we've always worked with him is write him music first and apologize later. So we sent him, we just secretly worked on like an album's worth of music and then sent it to him. Luckily he really loved it. I think at that point we'd been working with him enough to know like what his general vibe was and what he was sort of looking for. So he took that music, and then we were talking about this last night. That was in 2021.
Spring of
We
2021.
sent him that
Hmm.
music, and it wasn't for over a year later that we had the opportunity to finally come onto the project and like sort of at that point audition. He was working with Production IG in Japan, who did all the amazing
Hmm.
animation. Um, they were not intending to hire an American composer, I believe,
No.
but Mattson had put this batch of music into their library, so they actually had chosen all of these songs of ours or cues and were animating to them at the time. So when it came time to actually hire a composer, they were like, "Well, we're not going to hire an American, but who did this? Who did these?" And he was like, "These Americans." So we had a whole process where we sort of were on a trial basis for the first episode, finally got hired on the second.
Very stressful.
Very stressful process. And then after that second episode, it was just smooth sailing. Everyone was on the same page, and it was awesome.
When you say it was stressful process, care to elaborate?
It was just, it's a big franchise, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of pressure. We had done this music back in 2021, so there's a lot riding on like actually getting
Yeah.
this. And, you know, God, I remember getting like the first batch of notes from the first episode, and one of them from the producers. All of the notes, by the way, were just fantastic, which is really rare
Yeah.
in this world. And
Hmm.
one of them said like, we really just like want you to like be yourself. And I feel like there was moments where we were like, oh, well, it has to be bigger. Like we have to do this because it's this big thing. And we got that note, and then from there on out, we were just like, all right, let's just do what sounds cool. And that just guided us
Yeah.
throughout the whole series. And then the stress started dissipating, and yeah.
Yeah. It was about 4 months, I think, of writing music for them, being in contact, writing this first episode, and then finding out we actually got the job.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can be stressful, just the
Yeah.
Yeah.
waiting time to see
Yeah.
Yes.
if it goes through or not. But interestingly, when I started watching the first episode and the music kicked in, so, when you think about Terminator and music, you think about the theme, right?
Mhm.
Like
Yeah.
the main theme. When I began watching it, now I don't know if this is the final version that I have. It is the final version I've seen, but I'm not sure if there is actually opening credits in the one that's going to be released. I didn't see it, so I have no
No.
idea.
No, there's not. Yeah.
Yeah.
There is not. Okay.
No.
So I was expecting some sort of, like a montage with the Terminator 2 theme or
Hmm.
Terminator 1 theme. And when that didn't happen, I was really pleased because it made the series on its own series, despite, even though it was
Yeah.
connected to the Terminator universe. And the music was really cool, in a sense that it was not overpowering the characters or the story, and it was futuristic, it was sci-fi, there was human element in there. So I really, enjoyed it, and I was trying to pay attention to music, but the best thing that ever can happen to a film or a series is that when you stop paying attention to the music, because it just immerses you into the story,
Mm.
and then you're wrapped up around that. And then obviously the music is going in your, subconscious for you to be hooked on. But I thought it was really fabulous. I hope there is some sort of an soundtrack released, because I would love to listen to it on its own. I'm not sure
Yeah,
if there
that's
is.
in the works.
It's
It
in
is
the
in the
works.
works. Okay,
But
awesome.
man, that's just so, thank you so much for saying that, because you never know. We've been in this project for so long, so hearing that you just got wrapped up in it, that's very exciting. That's really cool to hear.
Yeah. And it was really nice. They let us, I mean, everyone was on the same page. It's in the canon of Terminator, but it is a different project. It is a completely different story. It takes place in Japan. It's anime. Like, we wanted to differentiate from the original films. The only one request that we had was to include the drum line in our sort of version of the theme, which happens at the very end of episode 1.
Yeah.
So you get the da 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 da
Yeah.
a couple times, and then
That's
it's
it.
but yeah, other
Yeah,
than
no,
that, it's separate.
it was really, really cool to feel it, to see it. Kind of jumping off Terminator, or we can talk about Terminator, but as a husband and wife duo, right? Um, being married is tough by itself, as you can imagine, right? And you mix this in, uh, what kind of, what's the whole agreement slash disagreement
Yeah.
that goes behind in making, and how do you guys cope with it, trying to make it professional slash personal?
Hmm. Should I
Yeah,
answer?
you can go.
It's nice because I've collaborated with other people in the past, and when you're collaborating with a friend or a stranger who you just met, you have to be kind of careful when giving notes, and you have to be, polite and delicate. And luckily, I think 10 and a half years into this relationship, we're past the point of having to be polite and delicate, which is very nice when it comes to the creative process. Um, we tend to just sort of like duke it out when we disagree and like debate, but then at the same time, it's like I kind of compare it to always having an editor with you,
Mhm.
and you're just editing during the process. So we flip back and forth. We don't separate cues, like divide them between us. We work on the same cues, and we start by writing together and jamming in a room. And then when it comes to like really scoring picture, we take turns going back and forth, working on the same cues. So it's like just editing, 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 editing. Um,
Which is really helpful because sometimes you
yeah,
you hit a place with a cue, you're like, oh, is this done? Okay, is this like, and you have someone to be like, oh no, this sucks, or
yeah,
this is how we should take it. And I don't know, I feel like best whatever serves the film. That's kind of the guiding principle. And we definitely kill our babies a lot
your
because
ego is stripped out of it
completely.
because we don't know at this point. We can't remember for the most part who came up with what idea in the score. Like, and it doesn't matter
Yeah,
because you're a duo. So it's like,
it's all going to the same
it's kind of
place.
nice in that regard. And we also have different skills that we bring to the table. So yeah. But personally, to separate work and personal life, we can still work on that. We're not
You know,
exactly killing it in that
it's
department.
really cool to hear that, you can't remember who created what, because that's when you know
Hmm.
you're working for the project as opposed to, for yourselves, which we all
Totally.
do to a certain extent. I mean, there is a little
Yeah.
bit of that, which is natural, but just to overall the greater picture is, the project, the film, the series.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
100%.
Um, have you seen the series
Yeah.
or any of the
Oh,
other
I
seasons?
have.
I
You
Okay.
you have not seen
I'm
it all.
waiting. I'm
Yeah.
waiting until it comes out to watch the final.
Okay.
Um,
Uh,
yeah.
so maybe the question would be to sort of, in terms of what you saw, uh, the version that you saw, and the music that is in it, and the storyline itself. We don't want to talk about the story, but just, the overall, the feel of it. What, as a viewer, forget that you were a composer, what kind of emotions, whatever they are, kind of ran through when you were watching an episode or two episode or the entire series?
That's a good question.
I think there is a lot of existential dread, which, but it's also incredibly beautiful because without giving away anything, it centers around a family.
Yeah.
Um, so there is a lot of love,
Yeah.
and there is this balance between existential dread and like maybe the world's going to end and like Judgment Day is coming. And there's also the love you have for your family and um, trying to save the world, trying to save your family, and just trying to exist. It's a really beautiful story, um, which can apply to the world right now. It
It,
feels
it
relevant.
every day it does. But let me rephrase the question. So, as a director myself, when I am done with the film, right, and we do a bunch of screenings, or if it's playing at a theater or whatnot, it's there are times when you forget about how it was made, right? Because you are immersed into it, especially later on in the process, like when the film's done, people have seen it, you've attended a lot of screenings. But in the first couple of screenings, for me at least, it's really hard to be an audience because then you start thinking about, oh, this is what this is like, this is how we did that, this is not
Mhm.
right. Did that go through you when you were watching it at all?
Yeah, I can't be an audience member at this point.
Yeah, see,
It's
so
it's
it's a
just
universal problem.
yeah, no, especially ever since we started this journey of scoring, I feel like even movies, like, I have a really hard time being an audience. Now I'm just like constantly keyed into the music, and when it's ours, it's just amplified to
Yeah,
like the 100th degree. Like I, yeah, and I'm critical, and I'm like, I'm always just like, ooh, I'm
yeah,
just having a hard time. But
yeah, 100%. Same.
but at the same time, there was a sense after I watched it all of just being like really, really proud of all the work that we did on it, and I'm just really, really excited for it to come out. So
Yeah, I remember when the first time Netflix announced it, which I'm guessing was 4 or 5 months ago. They just announced Terminator Zero. That's it. Like it was just the logo. I was so excited just because, it's Terminator. Like Terminator 1 and 2 is like, your childhood, especially the second one because it's about a teenager and most of us,
Yeah.
grew up with that film in that
yeah,
same age. Um, but it's just an incredible piece of series from a story, from anime. It's kind of my kids, they're really into anime. So I told them that I showed them the trailer and they really wanted to see it. And when I began watching, I'm like, I don't think this is for the kids. So,
yeah, a little
so
older
I'm like,
maybe.
I'm like, you can't watch it. I mean, it's a Terminator, but I wasn't expecting it to be an anime, even though animes are very targeted towards the older audience.
Yeah,
But yeah, they were really looking forward to it. I mean, my daughter especially, she saw the trailer. She's like, I want to see this. I'm like, I don't know if you can. It's like,
It's a little
not
violent.
ready.
Just a
yeah,
Yeah,
little.
yeah.
yeah. I don't know what
Um,
age group, but a little
yeah,
higher.
they're young. They're, around 11,
Mm,
12. So they're
okay.
young. Like especially
Couple more
um
years.
yeah, especially I won't reveal the scene, but when I'm just trying to find the right way of saying it. There's a bridge scene in the second episode, which you're talking
Yes,
about.
yes.
Hmm.
Like that stuff that unfolded there, I was not expecting it. Like, even though I knew it was, it said the discretion and everything. I'm like, whoa, this came out of nowhere. But it was cool to
Yeah.
see at the same time, from a creative standpoint.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
Uh, Michelle, how did you get into scoring?
Um, I had a friend who she had directed one of my music videos. I had a band in the city and was really focused on that. And I had actually interned for a composer, Elliot Goldenthal. I was his like social
Ah,
media intern. So I worked for him for a couple of years. I think I probably left that experience feeling like, oh, I don't think I have what it takes to be a composer. Just seeing, he's brilliant. And I started really doing the band thing, and our cat is meowing. I hope you can't hear her.
I
I'm
can't
gonna let
hear.
her
It's
in.
fine.
Sorry.
It's fine.
Okay.
Fine.
Um,
You guys wouldn't be composing Terminator if you didn't have a cat.
I
So
mean, that's true. Um, so anyway, I had a director friend who had done one of my music videos, and she was directing her first short film, and she asked me to score it, and I almost said no because I guess I had very low self-confidence. Um, Luckily, I said yes because it was like kind of the best experience ever, and really made me realize that this is what I want to be doing. I realized I was excited to wake up in the morning to work in that
Mm,
capacity, and I was not excited to wake up in the morning to write my own songs and beg people to come to my shows and all of that. So it was the start of me turning in the scoring direction, versus the songwriting and performing
that
direction.
that's so cool. You mentioned Elliot. I watched after a long time Alien 3,
Oh yeah,
which was David Fincher's first film, and I was completely surprised how good that film was. And Elliot did the score
yeah,
in that film. So if you haven't seen Alien 3 in a while, or you haven't seen it at all,
yeah. It's been a long
aside from
time.
few terrible full alien CGI effects, it's a really good film. It's actually a really good film. I
Nice,
was really surprised.
nice.
Um, you know, g- Going back to Terminator Zero, what do you remember the first time you guys saw the finished, or at least I think only Kevin has seen it, right? So,
You've
um,
seen some of the finished
I've
stuff.
seen some of the finished stuff. Yeah.
the feeling, do you remember that when you saw the images of something that you worked on, it's complete, not trying to be like, not necessarily in a negative way, being egocentric, but at the same time, we're all human beings. Like, you feel proud about what you've done. What was that feeling for both of you separately, if you can answer?
I mean, for me, I was just so proud of the team. The it looked beautiful. I mean, we had done the whole score, you know, from month by month at a time, getting animatics in. So we never saw anything like fully colored in, and so
Mhm.
just to see how beautiful it was just really exciting because I love anime, and you never know what type of thing you're gonna get in a project, and it's just they blew it out of the water, and um, just seeing the artwork was really special and exciting for me.
Yeah. I felt the same way. I think I'm still having a hard time, like you said before, separating, my role in it and the music and being critical. um, but seeing it was amazing. And I think I don't know if this will ever go away or if this is, I don't know what happens when it's like you're still young in this career, but I'm still just blown away when things actually come together and are
Is
done and are made.
it it's an amazing feeling, isn't it? Like, just,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you spent
so
like four
cool.
or 5 years something on something, and sometimes you get so wrapped up in it that you don't see a lot of things that a first time audience member would, but it still holds a special place in your heart because of the story behind what you've done, like how you came
Hmm.
Yeah.
to be where you are.
Hmm.
Um, there's a lot of new composers now. I recently spoke to um Logan Nelson, who did Elizabeth, the Lost Tapes. I think the other gentleman's name was Marcus Norris. He did Lady in the Lake Apple series,
Oh
Oh
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
and a lot of new talent that's popping out, which is great to see. And one of the things that I find very interesting is trying to sort of stay true to classical music as well as the music from the 80s, 70s, 90s.
Hmm.
And it's really pleased to see that. Who do you guys look up to when you're trying to, you know, not necessarily score, but just be inspired by? He or she could be from the 1800s, 1900s.
I mean, I feel like the gold standard for us has always been Trent and Atticus. They just like opened this world up to a different way of scoring that just got us really excited. Also, Johan Johansson, Mika Levy, um, just experimental, bold feelings. I don't know. I
Yeah.
get really excited about those types of scores. Like Arrival is one of my favorite
Mm,
scores of all time.
Yeah.
that is
Johan's
a
a
good
big one for
score.
us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think because we both come from, I mean, I studied, classical music in college, but I really come from like a indie rock background. So I think I've always been drawn to composers who like challenge the status quo. Like, I
Mm,
mean, John Cage was my favorite composer in college, just doing the craziest things that no one had ever done before and thinking about music totally differently. Um, so I think we're both really drawn to that kind of composer. And Trenton Atticus, I feel like sort of blew the lid off um, what film composing could be. And with when Social Network came out, I remember watching it and being like, oh, I could do this. Like this is what I want to do. Because it just showed what's possible. So
That's
I'm really
awesome.
excited about the direction that film music is going in right now.
That's so cool. I remember in the 90s, there were two people that I sort of grew up with. I'm a huge movie score fan. Like I've been listening to
Mhm.
scores since Last of Mohicans came out, 1492 Conquest of Paradise, Vangelis and all of them. But the two people that really did it for me in terms of score, who I still listen to, that broke that status quo. One of them,
Mhm.
Hans Zimmer, right? Hans
Mhm.
Zimmer completely took music into a different direction. And another gentleman who started at the age of 16 and he won the Oscar for Slumdog Millionaire, A-
Yeah.
Mhm.
A.R. Rahman. If
Mhm.
you listen to his first album he ever did, and there's even an instrumental track of it online on Apple Music, at the age of 16, just with a keyboard, he created something that nobody has even come close to creating it to this day. So it's just because he's tried something completely
Yeah.
new, like fresh,
Mhm.
right? And that
Mhm.
that's what I find a lot of times we're afraid of doing, but that's
Mhm.
what's the missing sauce is, no matter what you're trying
Mhm.
to do.
Yeah. Totally.
Yeah.
Tell me about your team.
Yeah.
How big
We
is it?
don't have a much of a
Well,
team. Well, we do have a team, okay.
Well, you guys
We
said team, so I'm going by that.
we have we're the two of us are the only composers.
Okay.
We work with Ariel Lowe for mixing.
yes.
Hmm.
That was
Ariel
good.
Lowe is also the music editor on this, longtime collaborator with them. Kevin's recorded every album.
Every album I've ever recorded since I was 18.
Yeah.
It's been a
That's
staple.
awesome.
And then we worked with Catherine Joy and her team at Joy Music House for like orchestrating for the choir, in which we recorded in London with the London Contemporary Orchestra Choir, which was
With
amazing.
Hugh Brunt.
With Hugh Brent composed or conducting,
Yeah,
um, which was a phenomenal experience.
that was very cool.
But yeah, other than that, we don't have an assistant yet. That'd be nice
And
someday.
just keep trading off.
Just keep, there's two of us, so
That helps.
No, that's good. You know, what's the pr I mean, I kind of have an idea, but at the same time, I'm always curious to know. I know when I listen to good music, I wish I had learned how to make music. I don't know anything about how to make music, right? Like the notes and all that stuff. But what's the process for you, whether it's on Terminator Zero or any other project, where that to get the right theme or track or just to get that piece of work right for a particular scene, what do you guys go through, like, if there's a scene of XYZ trying to save ABC and there's an emotional element involved, like what's the process that you guys have of trying to get to that place where the director says, yeah, this is it?
There we go.
Yeah, well, I feel like it usually starts with one of us being like, "Oh, I think I have an idea." If someone like raises their hand, it's like, "Oh, I think I've got a sense here. Let me try like putting the foot forward." Um, one of us will sit down and just start. For me, it comes with sounds first. I like really need
Yeah.
to write with like the specific sounds in mind. So I am experimenting with synths and guitar and affecting things right off the bat to like find the mood. I've just always worked that way. But with Michelle, I feel like you attack it very differently.
I think I'm much more melody driven. So I usually start at the piano or singing into a microphone. And that's sort of where I start with the melody and then I build around that. And what's kind of cool being a duo is because he starts with sound and I start with melody, you're sort of attacking it from two different
Yeah.
angles, which I think helps things come together much faster
Totally.
than if I were alone. Um,
And a lot of times we'll just map it out first, and then
right.
like I don't know, there'll be a couple beats that we haven't hit yet, and then we'll just slowly like be like, okay, well this has to end here, and we need to bring it up here, and
It's like a puzzle.
it is. And then we send it to. I mean, how we've worked with Matson is very collaborative of just getting it to the place that we feel good about it, sending it to Matson. He weighs in, is like, oh yeah, this is feeling good, or try this right here, and do that back and forth before it goes, get shipped off to Netflix or Production IG, then potentially get their notes.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's I always find when you are making a film, when you're directing a film, at least you have a script, right? When you are editing a film, at least you have the footage.
Mm.
But when you're writing a film or writing music, it's just somewhere up there, right? And you have to sort of bring it together, and that's where all the magic and starts. Not to take away from any other elements of production, but that's where it all starts. So
Totally.
it's a very 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 tough job that you guys do, but
Yeah.
at the same time, it's amazing what you do. So it's totally cool.
It's really fun.
Sometimes it can be terrifying, but
Oh, I know.
it's really fun.
Well, Steve Jobs said it, and he probably said it really better than I will rephrase it, is that if you don't love what you do, you'll quit because you have to be crazy not to quit. So, that's the
Totally.
bottom line. That's the bottom line in anything that you
Yeah.
totally love doing. Because
Absolutely.
there's tons of, I think there's more moments than you will quit as opposed to let's just stay focused. But the fact that you really enjoy it just keeps you,
Keeps
home.
you going.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
What's next for you guys? Anything that you're working on that you can chat about or taking a
Yeah.
break?
Well, we've got a horror that we're working on right now. We can't
Feature?
really say too much.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
we can't
feature.
say too much more
Fine.
than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've got that cooking, and I'm still writing music, so I'm trying to finish another album, just on my side project, Cape Francis, and yeah, we've just been doing that. What else?
Got some things down the pipeline that we
Couple
also
things.
can't. But we're still
Amazing.
going.
I haven't, like I said, I've only seen 3 of the I think it's 8-part series, right? The Terminator
Mhm.
Yeah.
Zero. Yeah. So I haven't gotten access to the last 4, but I'm hoping, or I'm assuming, obviously it depends on how it does. There's a second season, unless it's a mini series. Don't know. I don't want to know. I'm just talking out loud. Wonderful. Anything else you guys want to add?
I don't think so.
This is great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for
This was
having
Thank
us.
you. Thank
Great
you.
questions.
Great. I'm glad you guys had a good time. It's a great series. You guys did an amazing job in composing the music. Like I said earlier,
Thank you.
Terminator Zero starts August 29th on Netflix. So really looking forward for people to sort of, connect to you guys and your music because it's really totally worth it on its own as well as with the series.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, guys. You have yourself a great time.
You too.
You too.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.